There are patterns you pretend you don't see. You call them accidents. You call them habits. But you feel the shape of them every time. You move toward what bruises you, not because you want the pain, but because something in you learned to expect it. An expectation becomes gravity. Chapter 1. The Quiet Pull. You don't wake up and decide to walk toward hurt. You drift toward it, slow, familiar, like a place you've been before and never questioned. You tell yourself you're choosing. You tell yourself you're searching for something real. But the truth is simpler. You follow the feeling that feels like home, even when home was the first wound. Most of your choices aren't conscious. They come from the old parts of you, the parts that learned how to survive long before you learned how to think. Pain wasn't just pain back then. It was structure. It was the rhythm of your early world, and now your body treats it like a map. You don't chase hurt because you enjoy it. You chase it because it matches the emotional temperature you were trained in. Calm people feel suspicious to you. Steady moments feel empty. Peace feels like a stranger you don't trust yet. You think you want safety, but when safety shows its face, you feel exposed. You feel unprepared. You feel like you're supposed to be doing something, even when nothing is required. So you walk back to what feels predictable. You walk back to the intensity, to the tension, to the familiar ache that tells you where you are. There's a strange comfort in repetition, not because it's healthy, but because it doesn't surprise you. And the mind prefers what it can anticipate over what it can't. This is the quiet pull you don't talk about. The pull that guides you toward the same people, the same situations, the same endings. You call it fate, but it's conditioning. Old emotional training replaying itself in your adult life. And the repetition goes unnoticed until it stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling like a pattern you can't outrun. Chapter 2. The Fear Behind the Choice. You tell yourself you're strong. You tell yourself you're in control. But if you look at your decisions without excuses, you see something else underneath. Fear, not loud fear, not the kind that shakes your hands. The quiet kind. The kind that hides behind your impulses and pushes you forward without words. There's fear of being seen for who you are. Fear of being known too deeply. Fear of disappointing someone who actually cares. Fear of stability you never learned how to hold. You avoid people who treat you well, not because you disrespect them, but because they make you confront something you rarely face. Your worth, your softness, your need. Those things feel unsafe to you, not because they are, but because your nervous system doesn't know what to do with them. Hurt feels simpler. It's predictable. It doesn't demand vulnerability. It doesn't require you to show the parts of yourself you keep buried. It doesn't ask you to grow. You think you fear pain. But the truth is harder to accept. You fear change more. You fear uncertainty more. You fear the discomfort of stepping outside the emotional world you grew up in. When someone offers something real, your mind searches for the catch. Your body prepares for the moment things fall apart. You test people. You pull back. You make them prove themselves until they're exhausted. Then you say, the connection wasn't meant to be. But the connection didn't fail. Your defenses succeeded. You choose hurt because it doesn't threaten your identity. It doesn't challenge your expectations. It doesn't pull you into a version of yourself you aren't sure how to carry. What hurts you may trap you, but it never surprises you. And some part of you treats predictability as safety, even when the cost is high. You keep chasing what hurts because fear shapes your logic. Fear shapes your attraction. Fear shapes the story you tell yourself about what you deserve. It all happens quietly, almost invisibly, until you finally see the fear underneath every decision you thought was rational. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Control. You like to believe you're the one steering your life. You like to believe every choice is conscious, but most of your movements come from deeper impulses you rarely confront. You hold on to hurt because it gives you a sense of control, not real control, perceived control. The belief that if you repeat the same pattern, you can manage the outcome. You can anticipate the disappointment. You can prepare for the hit. When you chase what hurts you, You think you're choosing strength, endurance, resilience, but you're choosing the familiar over the unknown. You're choosing the predictable over the meaningful. You're choosing the pain you can handle over the possibility you can't. Control becomes an illusion you cling to. You repeat old stories because new ones feel unstable. You recreate old dynamics because they feel like territory you understand. Even if they drain you, even if they corner you, you mistake repetition for mastery. You think if you return to the same kind of hurt, you'll learn to conquer it. You'll fix what you couldn't fix before. You'll finally win a game you never agreed to play. But the game was never yours. It was handed to you. Shaped by childhood experiences you didn't choose. Reinforced by early relationships that taught you what love, attention, and closeness were supposed to feel like. You chase hurt because you think surviving it means something. You think it proves you're strong. You think it shows you're built for impact. But strength isn't the same as clarity, and endurance isn't the same as growth. You look at the wreckage and tell yourself you meant to drive there, but some part of you knows the truth. You weren't steering, you were repeating. And repetition can feel like control, until the pattern finally collapses, and you see how little control you ever had. Chapter 4. The Comfort of Self-Punishment. There's a part of you don't talk about. A part that believes you should pay for something. Not out loud, not consciously, but in the background of everything you do. You carry guilt from old mistakes, old failures, old moments where you disappointed yourself or someone else. You push them down. You pretend they don't matter, but they leak into every decision you make. When you choose situations that hurt you, you're not always seeking pain. Sometimes you're seeking balance, trying to even out some internal scale you can't name. You punish yourself in subtle ways, through the relationships you choose, through the expectations you lower, through the chances you refuse, through the opportunities you sabotage. You chase people who don't value you, because you think that's what you deserve. You stay in situations that drain you, because you think earning something good requires suffering first. You don't trust ease. You don't trust kindness. You don't trust anything that comes without tension or cost. When something feels good from the start, your mind tells you it won't last. Your body waits for the moment it shifts. You prepare for the impact before it arrives. Self-punishment becomes part of your identity, not because you're weak, but because you learn to measure your worth through endurance, through pressure, through sacrifice. When life gives you something soft, you recoil. It feels undeserved. It feels suspicious. It feels like a setup. So you return to the places that confirm your beliefs about yourself. The beliefs that say you're supposed to fight for every inch. The beliefs that say peace is temporary. The beliefs that say you're built for struggle and nothing else. You keep chasing what hurts you, because some part of you is convinced that you belong in the hurt, even if the rest of you wants something gentler, something steadier, something human. Chapter 5. The Moment You See It. There comes a quiet moment, a moment you don't announce to anyone, a moment where the pattern doesn't break, but you finally notice it. You start to see the choices you've been calling fate. You start to feel the weight of your defaults. You start to notice the familiar ache you keep returning to. You realize you aren't cursed. You aren't unlucky. You aren't doomed to repeat the same pain forever. You're conditioned. You're trained. You're wired into an emotional blueprint you didn't create. But noticing it changes everything. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic shift, but in small, steady awareness. You begin to see the early signs. The tension you mistake for connection. The instability you call passion. The chaos you confuse with depth. The discomfort you interpret as truth. You start to see how often you abandon yourself. How often you override your instincts. How often you settle because settling feels familiar. You stop pretending you don't know what's happening. You stop calling your patterns accidents. You stop hiding from the quiet truth behind your choices. You keep living. You keep moving. But something inside you is different. A little clearer. A little less automatic. You still feel the pull toward what hurts, but you also feel the distance growing. Quietly, without performance. You're not healed. You're not transformed. You're simply aware, and sometimes awareness is the first real moment of freedom you've had in years. You see the hurt, you feel the pull, but for the first time, you also feel yourself.